On June 7, 1994, Apple Computer introduced some exciting new technology at the Digital World Conference in Los Angeles, California, in the field of virtual reality. Virtual reality usually implies the use of special 3D goggles, stereo displays, or high-end 3D workstations to achieve the virtual reality effect. These systems usually imply the use of 3D computer-generated graphics to achieve their experience. This is suitable for researchers, for games, and for engineers, but it's not suitable for the rest of us. Apple Computer introduced some new technology to allow you to use your mouse, keyboard, personal computer, and some new software to bring the real world into your computer instead of having the computer impose its definition of the world onto you. We call this new software QuickTime VR, and I'd like to give you a preview of that right now. We worked with the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco to prototype what it would be like to walk through the museum using the QuickTime VR technology. What you see before you is a screen that represents what a title would look like using the QuickTime VR technology. At the bottom, you see a number of different names that reflect the different exhibits that you could visit in the museum. Let's take a tour of the India exhibit. One of the first things I like to do when I go to a new place is to get my bearings. The QuickTime VR technology allows me to have complete 360-degree views of whatever scene I'm looking at. I can look completely to the right, or I can pause and look at the left at my own will. The QuickTime technology also allows me to zoom in if I want to see an object in more detail by pressing a key on the keyboard. If I want to zoom out, I press another key and I can see a much wider field of view. Let me continue my view to the right so I can see some objects that I'd like to get some more detail on. If I want to advance forward, I simply click on the mouse, and that advances me forward to another view. And again, at each point in my journey, I have complete 360-degree views of my scene. If we advance one more time, I'm now closest to the wall. QuickTime VR incorporates hotspot technology that allows the content provider to designate part of the screen to be active when the user clicks on it. In this case, you see the cursor changes from a bullet to a bullet with a hand. These two objects are not hot, while this one is. If I click on this hotspot, in this case we decided to show you a high-resolution photograph of the object that I was looking at, along with some accompanying text that describes the object. QuickTime VR is entirely based on software. No peripherals or 3D workstations are required. The use of real-world images is a breakthrough in the use of virtual reality, allowing users to navigate the real world instead of imaginary ones. Based on the QuickTime architecture, QuickTime VR will run on both Mac and Windows, as well as many future QuickTime-capable platforms. No special hardware is required to navigate the QuickTime VR experience. If I want to turn to the right, I merely click and drag the mouse to the right. If I want to turn left, I click and drag the mouse to the left. By clicking and dragging upward, I can see the ceiling. Clicking and dragging downward allows me to see the floor. I can also click and drag, and while keeping the mouse button down, move the mouse left, right, up, or down, and look at the entire space at will. By pressing a key on the keyboard, I can zoom in. By pressing another key, I can zoom out. The use of real-world images is a breakthrough for the QuickTime VR technology. In this scene, we're looking at a classroom. You'll notice the richness of detail that is evident through the use of photography. The cutouts above the blackboard, the desks, the windows are all richness that would not be rendered easily. On a computer monitor, if I was to zoom in to this blackboard, I'd be able to actually see the writing on the blackboard. This is possible through the use of silver halide technology, the use of film, which is much richer in detail than what we would get if we recorded this scene on video. Each of these scenes requires only 800K to store. QuickTime VR does not distinguish between the use of real-world images or rendered images in the runtime software engine. This is a scene from a company in San Francisco that provided us this architectural view of a Frank Lloyd Wright building. I still have the ability to zoom in and to zoom out using the same techniques I described earlier. Interactive objects are another exciting technology that we have incorporated into the QuickTime VR architecture. An interactive object provides us with a complete 360-degree view of the object. I merely grab the object with the hand icon and move it around. I can see the top, the bottom, or I can grab the tail and bring that around to the front. When combined with real-world images, interactive objects become even more powerful, as I will show you in the Asian Art Museum. Let's go back to the India exhibit and look at some of the objects that we saw earlier. There were two hotspots that we noticed. If I click on this hotspot, you'll notice that at first I see what appears to be a high-resolution photograph. But in fact, this is an interactive object. By placing the hand on the object itself, I'm able to turn the object and see it from all sides, from the back, from the side, or from the top. This allows me to see views of this object that were just not possible before using still photography. QuickTime VR has all the benefits of being part of the QuickTime architecture and requires QuickTime 2.0 or later to run. The breakthroughs in the QuickTime VR technology are based on the use of 360-degree panoramic photography. Up until now, the only way to capture 360-degree panoramic photographs has been through the use of special panoramic cameras. These cameras produce a single strip negative. However, they are expensive, they require special training, and are often very difficult to find. Another new announcement we are making is our breakthrough in using standard 35mm cameras to produce a continuous 360-degree panoramic photograph. By taking a series of adjacent photos, we can then merge them together on the computer to produce a single, seamless, digital panoramic photograph. The use of standard 35mm cameras is a breakthrough in that it allows us to use the variety of wide-angle lenses, filters, and other accessories that are already on the market and readily available today. By using very wide-angle lenses, we can capture a very wide field of view. If we were to use a standard panoramic camera, our field of view would be narrowed, as you see in the grayed area. Once we take our series of still photographs, we scan them into the computer using Photo CD or another type of scanner. Once the images are scanned into the computer, they can be merged together into a seamless panoramic photograph. At this point in the process, we assign our hotspots. To the left, you see an image with a yellow circle. We are indicating that we want the table and chairs to be a hotspot. We would indicate the hotspots using the QuickTime VR authoring tools. The process of taking panoramic photographs and assigning hotspots is then repeated for the different views that you want to link together. Those views would then be linked, again using the QuickTime VR authoring tools, and integrated into a single QuickTime VR file. The minimum platform configurations for QuickTime VR are a Macintosh LC3 with 4 megabytes of RAM in QuickTime 2.0. A PC will need a 386 processor with an MPC2 configuration in QuickTime 2.0. Here we're going to show you the power of the QuickTime VR software. The red rectangle on the right indicates the active viewing area that's shown in the top portion of the screen. As I move around the view on the top portion of the screen, you'll see that the red rectangle moves to reflect that part of the image that I'm looking at. The power of the QuickTime VR software is correcting in real time and in software only the perspective of the view that I'm looking at. You'll notice that the top of the window in the original image at the bottom is curved, while in the top of the image, which is the active QuickTime VR software, the line is straight. The top of the window will change angles depending on what view that I am looking at. All of this perspective changing is happening real time and in software only. You can see as I zoom out and pan left or right that this wall that I'm looking at is in fact straight, while the image below makes it look curved. CD-ROM titles are an exciting way for people to experience the QuickTime VR technology. Education titles will be rich and varied. Students, for example, will be able to visit Mayan ruins just from their classroom, or take a trip to a virtual tide pool where they can handle starfish and sea urchins interactively through the use of the interactive object technology. Engineering applications enable engineers to explore airplanes and buildings that have not been built yet. Museums are a very exciting area for QuickTime VR technology. Only 10 to 15% of a museum's collection is on exhibit at any one time. QuickTime VR will enable people to visit museums and visit a vast part of the collection that the public normally does not see. QuickTime VR-based kiosks would enable malls, shopping centers, or theme parks to be placed onto a kiosk. This would enable users to virtually navigate to a location, allowing them to get familiar with those places without actually walking there first. Architectural walkthroughs, as shown earlier in this presentation, are another market. Surrogate travel would allow people to visit Paris, New York, or San Francisco, all based on a CD. And games, of course, are a very exciting area for us to explore further. Real-world-based Myst games, for example, would be a very exciting type of title. QuickTime VR is an exciting new breakthrough that is going to launch brand new uses of computers. The QuickTime VR software will be a licensed technology available by the end of 1994 for both Macintosh and Windows. If you'd like more information, please call the developer hotline listed on the screen.